Echo of Time. Unlock the past. Challenge the narrative.
It was the dawn of Friday the 13th, October 1307. A date that would live in infamy, spawning a superstition that haunts the world to this very day. In Paris, the streets were silent, but the shadows were moving. On the orders of a debt-ridden king, soldiers shattered the doors of the most powerful organization the world had ever known. They weren't hunting criminals, they were hunting heroes. They were hunting the guardians of the Holy Grail. But the real secret wasn't a cup. It was gold, mountains of it. These warrior monks had invented a system so powerful, it controls your life today. They were the Knights Templar. And this is the story of how holy men became the world's first billionaires, and why they had to burn for it. Welcome to Echo of Time, where we peel back the layers of history to reveal the currency of power. From ancient empires to modern fortunes, we uncover the secrets they didn't want you to know. If you are ready to face the past, let's begin. To understand the scale of their wealth, you have to understand the world they lived in. Imagine a time when carrying money was a death sentence. The year is 1119. The Crusades are raging. The road to Jerusalem is soaked in the blood of pilgrims. Robbers, bandits, and enemy armies prey on anyone daring to travel to the Holy Land. Enter 9 poor knights. They were so destitute that their official seal depicted 2 men riding a single horse. They called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ. Their mission was noble: protect the travelers. But poverty didn't last long. Within a decade, they were no longer just soldiers, they became a corporation. The Catholic Church, the absolute power of medieval Europe, gave them an endorsement that changed everything. The Pope granted them special privileges, they paid no taxes. They answered to no king, no lord, and no law, only to the Pope himself. Suddenly, donations flooded in. Nobles who wanted to buy their way into heaven signed over massive estates, farms, and castles to the Templars. But land was just the beginning. The Templars were about to invent something more valuable than land. They were about to invent modern banking. Here is how the genius of the Templar operated. A pilgrim wanted to travel from London to Jerusalem. Carrying gold coins was dangerous, one ambush, and you were destitute or dead. So, the Templars created a solution. You would walk into the Templar temple in London, deposit your gold, and receive a piece of parchment, a coded letter of credit. You could travel across the entire known world with nothing but a scrap of paper. When you arrived in Jerusalem, you handed that paper to the local Templar master, and he gave you your gold back. It sounds simple to us today. We call it a check or a wire transfer. But in the 12th century, this was sorcery. It was the first international financial network. Suddenly, the Templars weren't just guarding roads, they were moving the world's economy. They became the safest place to store wealth. Kings and queens deposited their crown jewels in Templar vaults. They bought fleets of ships, owned entire islands like Cyprus, and operated as a multinational military corporation. They were the medieval equivalent of Google, Goldman Sachs, and the US Army combined. They started lending money, and this is where the poor soldiers became the masters of Europe. Usury, charging interest on loans, was a sin in the eyes of the church. But the Templars found loopholes. They called it rent or administration fees. They lent money to merchants to build ships. They lent money to kings to fight wars. But money is a dangerous master. By the 1300s, the Templars were arguably more powerful than the governments of Europe. And one man hated them for it. King Philip IV of France. King Philip was broke. He had waged costly wars against England and lived a life of luxury he couldn't afford. He owed the Templars a fortune, an amount so vast, he could never hope to repay it. Philip looked at the Templars and didn't see holy men. He saw a debt he wanted to erase and a treasure he wanted to steal. But you cannot just attack the Pope's private army. You need a reason, you need a scandal. Philip began a whisper campaign. Rumors spread like wildfire. The Templars weren't worshipping God, they were worshipping a demon head called Baphomet. They were spitting on the cross during initiation. They were engaging in sodomy and dark rituals. It didn't matter that the accusations were false, it only mattered that people believed them. This brings us back to that fateful morning, Friday the 13th. In a coordinated strike, Philip's men arrested every Templar in France. The torture that followed was horrific. Knights were stretched on racks, burned with oil, and starved until they confessed to anything the king wanted. They confessed to devil worship. They confessed to spitting on the cross. They just wanted the pain to stop. But the Grand Master of the Templars, Jacques de Molay, refused to bow in the end. After years of imprisonment, he was dragged to the island of the Jews in the Seine River to be burned alive. As the flames licked at his feet, de Molay didn't scream for mercy, he screamed a curse. He called out to King Philip and Pope Clement, who had allowed this betrayal. He shouted, "God knows who is wrong and has sinned. Soon a calamity will occur to those who have condemned us to death. Pope Clement, King Philip, I summon you to face God's tribunal within a year." The crowd watched in horror as the old man turned to ash. Was it just the ramblings of a dying man? Or was it something more? Within a month, Pope Clement died of a hideous disease. And before the year was out, King Philip, the man who wanted all the gold, died in a hunting accident. The Capetian dynasty of France collapsed shortly after. The Templars were dissolved, but here is the final mystery. When King Philip's men raided the Templar vaults to seize the treasure, they found them empty. The fleet of Templar ships anchored at La Rochelle had vanished into the mist the night before the arrests. Where did the gold go? Some say it went to Scotland, helping to establish the Freemasons. Others say it crossed the Atlantic to the Americas, 2 centuries before Columbus. And some historians argue that the Templars simply went underground, evolving into the secretive banking families of Switzerland. The Templars showed the world that he who controls the flow of money, controls the destiny of nations. They built the bridge between the medieval world and the modern economy. They were the architects of the financial system we use today. The fire that burned Jacques de Molay extinguished the order, but it couldn't destroy the idea. The credit card in your pocket? The bank transfer you made yesterday? That is the legacy of the Templars. They taught us that true power isn't in the sword, but in the ledger. Did the treasure disappear? Or is it still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the next Friday the 13th? If you want to know where the money went, you have to follow the history. Make sure you are subscribed to Echo of Time. Turn on the notification bell. We are just getting started.